Imagine this. A CEO of a huge tech company loses his job to a 15-year-old hacker. Sounds unbelievable, right? But it actually happened. And the story behind it is nothing like you'd expect. This isn't your typical tech scandal or a simple breach. No, this story involves cunning skill and a shocking twist that no one saw coming. How did a teenager, someone with no formal training, manage to outsmart one of the most powerful tech leaders in the industry? And what did it cost the company? In this video, we're diving deep into the events that led to a teenager causing chaos in a billion-dollar tech company, pushing a CEO out of the job, and leaving the industry in shock. But the real question is, could it happen again? Stick with us till the end, because we're revealing some jaw-dropping details you won't hear anywhere else. Trust me, you'll want to know how this all unfolded. Before we begin, welcome to Craze TV. If you're into tech stories, mind-blowing hacks, and real-world drama that you won't find anywhere else, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our incredible videos. All right, let's get into it. The CEO at the center of this shocking story was none other than David Reynolds, the head of Technova Solutions, one of the most influential tech companies of its time. Founded nearly 2 decades ago, Technova rapidly rose to prominence, specializing in cutting-edge software and AI solutions. Under David's leadership, the company became a key player in the tech world, revolutionizing industries from healthcare to finance with their innovative products. Technova wasn't just another tech firm. By the time of the incident, it was valued at over $25 billion and had a presence in over 30 countries. They were responsible for some of the most widely used software tools in business today, and their AI research was considered groundbreaking. David Reynolds, a seasoned tech entrepreneur, had been with Technova from the very beginning. His vision and strategic thinking propelled the company into the spotlight. With a background in computer science and a reputation for making bold moves, Reynolds was celebrated as one of the brightest minds in the tech industry. Under his leadership, Technova consistently outperformed its competitors, attracting top-tier talent and even partnering with major corporations like Google and Microsoft. To say Technova was a giant in the tech world would be an understatement. The company's influence was far-reaching. Its AI algorithms powered everything from autonomous vehicles to cloud computing. They were innovators in every sense, shaping the future of technology. Technova's success story was a symbol of how a company could rise from humble beginnings to dominate the global market. And David Reynolds was at the heart of it all, leading the charge. Despite his success, there were cracks in the foundation. As Technova expanded rapidly, there were whispers of security concerns and growing competition in the AI sector. But even as those challenges surfaced, no one could have predicted that a 15-year-old hacker would be the one to bring David's reign to an abrupt end. At the heart of this story is Ethan Collins, a 15-year-old from a quiet suburban town. Ethan's journey into the world of hacking began long before most people could even spell cybersecurity. While other kids his age were busy playing video games or going to school, Ethan was teaching himself to code. By the time he was 12, he was already experimenting with basic encryption algorithms, fascinated by how systems could be broken down and rebuilt. Ethan wasn't just another teenager with an interest in computers. From a young age, it was clear he had an exceptional mind, one that didn't just understand technology, but could manipulate it in ways that seemed almost magical. His parents, both tech-savvy professionals, noticed his talent early on, but they never imagined how far it would take him. As a self-taught hacker, Ethan spent countless hours reading forums, reverse engineering software, and learning from the online communities that thrived in the shadows of the internet. By the time he was 14, he had already cracked multiple security systems and exposed vulnerabilities in various websites, some of which were even used by major corporations. While these were small-scale hacks, they showed that Ethan was no ordinary teen. He wasn't out for fame or money. He was simply driven by curiosity and the thrill of the challenge. His skills caught the attention of some well-known hackers in underground circles, and by his 15th birthday, Ethan was a name whispered among the best. But it wasn't until one fateful evening that he would pull off something no one could have anticipated. A hack so sophisticated, so daring, that it would make him a household name and forever alter the course of Technova's future. It all began with a single line of code. Ethan didn't go for the usual route of small-time hacks. Instead, he targeted Technova Solutions, knowing that their reputation for cutting-edge software and AI was both a strength and a vulnerability. With a mix of precision and stealth, Ethan discovered a flaw in one of Technova's lesser-known but critical systems. It was an AI tool that helped the company manage its data security. A small vulnerability, unnoticed by the company's experts, was all he needed. Ethan didn't waste time with warnings or small breaches. He launched an intricate attack, bypassing multiple levels of encryption. Within hours, he had access to sensitive company data, including confidential communications and high-level financial documents. But that wasn't the end of it. Ethan didn't simply take the data and disappear. He left a message. A message that, in hindsight, was a calculated move designed to shock and force the company's hand. The message read, "This is just the beginning. I can do more. Much more." The impact was immediate. Technova's security team was thrown into chaos, scrambling to understand how a teenage hacker had infiltrated one of the most secure systems in the tech world. Within days, the breach was all over the news, and the company was forced to admit that they had been compromised. But the real damage came when Ethan released even more data, proof that he had complete control over the company's most sensitive systems. Technova's response was swift, but it was also deeply flawed. The company first tried to downplay the situation, hoping it would blow over. But when it became clear that the hacker wasn't going to back down, the company was forced to act. They tried to lock down their systems and trace Ethan's movements, but the hacker was always one step ahead. Technova's leadership found itself caught in a web of embarrassment and panic, with internal pressure mounting as the scale of the breach became apparent. As the breach continued to unfold, the board of directors began to question David Reynolds' ability to lead the company through such a crisis. The hacker's ability to outsmart Technova's entire security infrastructure raised serious doubts about the company's future under Reynolds' leadership. Some speculated that Reynolds had been too focused on growth, ignoring the underlying weaknesses in his company's security systems. Others pointed to his inability to contain the situation as the core reason for his downfall. In the end, the decision was made. David Reynolds was out. His resignation was framed as a mutual agreement, but it was clear to anyone paying attention that the hacker's actions had set off a chain of events that led directly to the CEO's ousting. What had begun as a single hack by a 15-year-old prodigy had ended with one of the most prominent figures in tech losing his job and Technova's reputation left in tatters. The attack wasn't just a simple breach, it was a masterclass in hacking strategy. Ethan's approach was far more sophisticated than anyone at Technova could have imagined. Rather than relying on the usual methods like brute force or exploiting simple weaknesses, Ethan used a multi-layered strategy that combined both technical skill and a keen understanding of human behavior. First, he targeted the company's internal communication system, a critical platform where high-level executives and employees exchanged sensitive information. This system was known for its tight security, but Ethan discovered a vulnerability in the authentication process. By exploiting an overlooked flaw in the system's two-factor authentication, he was able to gain access to an employee's account. That was just the beginning. Once inside, Ethan didn't rush to make a move. Instead, he began monitoring internal conversations, learning how the company's decision-makers operated. He noticed that while the IT team had some of the most secure systems in place, there was a glaring weakness in the communication between different departments. Senior executives were relying on outdated protocols and unsecured communication channels to share critical information. Using this knowledge, Ethan launched what's known as a social engineering attack, a tactic that played on the human side of security. Posing as an internal tech support agent, he contacted several employees, tricking them into revealing personal information or bypassing security protocols. Ethan was able to use this information to gain deeper access to internal systems, all without triggering alarms or suspicion. His real move came when he infiltrated Technova's AI development servers, where the company's most sensitive intellectual property was stored. By exploiting a misconfigured firewall, a minor flaw that had been overlooked in the company's rapid expansion, Ethan was able to bypass security completely. He now had access to top-secret projects, confidential financial reports, and even insider discussions about potential mergers. But perhaps the most impressive part of Ethan's hack was his ability to cover his tracks. While many hackers would have left evidence behind, Ethan meticulously erased any signs of his presence in the system. Technova's internal security team had no idea they were being compromised until it was too late. By the time the company realized the scale of the breach, Ethan had already gathered enough data to make his presence known in the most dramatic way possible. The hacker didn't just steal data, he exposed vulnerabilities in the very fabric of Technova's security. The fact that such a young, seemingly inexperienced individual had been able to outmaneuver one of the largest tech companies in the world made the breach all the more humiliating. Technova's leadership, especially CEO David Reynolds, found themselves on the defensive. The hackers' skillful manipulation of the company's own systems, combined with the social engineering tactics that made their internal staff unwitting accomplices, led to an overwhelming loss of control. In the aftermath, it became clear that the hacker hadn't just taken advantage of weak points in the company's infrastructure, he had outsmarted them at every turn. It wasn't just a matter of technical failure, it was a failure in leadership, foresight, and preparedness. And in the tech world, that was something no CEO could afford to ignore. The fallout for Technova was swift and devastating. What started as a breach quickly spiraled into a full-blown crisis that sent shockwaves through the company, affecting everything from their finances to their reputation. The immediate financial impact was staggering. Investors, who had once considered Technova a golden child of the tech world, began to pull back, causing the company's stock price to plummet. Within a week of the hack being made public, Technova's valuation dropped by over $5 billion, and analysts warned that the damage could be even worse if the company couldn't regain control of its security systems. Operationally, the company was in disarray. Technova's AI products, which had once been their crown jewels, were now under intense scrutiny. Clients began pulling out, worried about the integrity of the company's software and its ability to safeguard sensitive data. The breach had exposed the company's vulnerabilities, and customers, especially in industries like healthcare and finance, were no longer willing to trust Technova with their most valuable assets. Internal teams were stretched thin as they scrambled to patch security holes and rebuild the company's tarnished infrastructure. But the damage was already done. In the wake of the breach, Technova also found itself embroiled in a public relations nightmare. News outlets and social media were flooded with stories about the hack, and the narrative quickly shifted from a simple breach to a full-blown scandal. David Reynolds, once hailed as a visionary leader, now found himself at the center of the storm. The public began to question his ability to steer the company through the growing crisis. His reputation, which had taken years to build, was crumbling under the weight of the hack. As the pressure mounted, the board of directors had little choice but to act. The loss of Reynolds wasn't just a matter of personnel, it was a symbolic loss of the company's direction and leadership. His resignation came as a shock to many, but to those within the company, it felt inevitable. The board was quick to appoint an interim CEO, someone with experience in crisis management and security recovery. But it was clear that Technova needed more than just a new leader. It needed to rebuild its trust, its reputation, and its future. While the transition was handled with some degree of professionalism, it was far from smooth. The interim CEO, a former security expert named Laura Williams, was tasked with stabilizing the company's operations and ensuring that clients and investors remained on board. However, the challenge ahead was monumental. Technova couldn't afford any more mistakes, and every decision would be scrutinized under the harshest of lights. Williams and her team were now responsible for not only patching the holes left by the breach, but also for restoring faith in Technova's ability to lead the industry again. In the aftermath of the leadership change, Technova's future remained uncertain. While the company's foundational technologies were still impressive, their trustworthiness had been severely damaged. Even with a new CEO at the helm, the long-term recovery would depend on Technova's ability to demonstrate that it had learned from its mistakes, especially in terms of security. The loss of David Reynolds was more than just a leadership change. It marked the end of an era for the company and the beginning of a long road to recovery. After the hack, Ethan Collins became an unlikely figure in the tech world. His actions were all over the media, sparking a global conversation about cybersecurity and the vulnerabilities of major corporations. Despite his age, he quickly gained notoriety. News outlets dubbed him the teen hacker who took down a CEO, and soon enough, he was a household name. But Ethan wasn't in it for the fame. For him, it was never about recognition, it was about proving his abilities. However, the fame came with its own set of consequences. The tech community was divided. Some hailed him as a genius, a prodigy who had exposed deep flaws in the industry's security practices. Others, including law enforcement and corporate leaders, saw him as a criminal. The debate raged on, with many questioning whether Ethan's actions were an ethical breach or a wake-up call to the tech industry. As the investigation into the breach unfolded, Ethan found himself caught in a legal battle. Technova, along with law enforcement agencies, launched an investigation to track down the young hacker. With his identity exposed, Ethan became a target, and there was pressure from many sides to make an example of him. The legal consequences were serious. Technova, reeling from the breach, wanted to press charges, citing the enormous damage caused to their financial standing and reputation. But Ethan's age complicated matters. Instead of a lengthy court trial, a deal was struck. Ethan's legal team, backed by his family and a team of influential supporters, argued that he had never intended to cause harm. He simply wanted to demonstrate the vulnerabilities he had found. After months of negotiations, Ethan received a juvenile sentence, which included community service and a commitment to ethical hacking. The court acknowledged his talent and potential, but made it clear that his actions were illegal, regardless of his intent. But despite the legal issues, Ethan's story didn't end with punishment. In fact, the controversy and attention only seemed to fuel his career. Instead of fading into obscurity, he became a sought-after figure in the cybersecurity world. With his legal troubles behind him, Ethan was approached by multiple tech firms, eager to recruit him as a consultant. His knowledge of hacking, particularly his ability to exploit weaknesses in major tech giants, made him a valuable asset. Within months, he had partnered with several companies, advising on their security systems and helping to patch the very vulnerabilities he had once exploited. Today, Ethan Collins is considered one of the youngest and most sought-after cybersecurity experts in the world. At just 18 years old, he runs his own cybersecurity consultancy, focusing on helping companies strengthen their defenses against hackers. He continues to push the boundaries of ethical hacking, but now with a clear focus on prevention rather than disruption. His story has evolved from that of a teenage hacker to that of a mentor and innovator, and he is frequently invited to speak at tech conferences and cybersecurity events. Ethan's journey, which started with a single breach, has led him to become a leader in the field, using his skills for good and working to make the digital world a safer place. The breach at Technova served as a stark reminder to the tech world about the importance of cybersecurity. While many companies were focusing on innovation and growth, the story of Ethan Collins exposed a crucial blind spot: vulnerability. Tech companies, no matter how large or successful, must remain vigilant in protecting their data, systems, and infrastructure. This incident showed that security is not just about preventing basic hacks. It's about preparing for the unexpected, including attacks from sources that might seem unlikely, like a 15-year-old hacker. For tech CEOs and leaders, the takeaway is clear: don't take your security for granted. The breach at Technova revealed how easily a talented hacker could exploit even the smallest oversight. It wasn't just a failure of technology, it was a failure to understand the evolving nature of cyber threats. The rapid pace of innovation in tech often leads companies to focus on expansion and product development. But as Technova learned the hard way, ignoring cybersecurity can come at an immense cost. CEOs and security teams must make cybersecurity a top priority, allocating resources to regularly update and reinforce systems. In today's world, cyber threats are constantly evolving, and staying one step ahead is the only way to protect a company's reputation, financial standing, and trust. One of the key lessons from this story is the importance of nurturing young talent. Ethan Collins was an outsider, no formal training, no professional background in cybersecurity. But what he lacked in experience, he made up for with raw talent and curiosity. This highlights a larger trend in the tech world. Young people are capable of far more than we often give them credit for. In fact, many of the best hackers in the world started at an incredibly young age. As a result, tech companies must consider fostering these talents, rather than dismissing them as threats. Instead of turning a blind eye to young people experimenting with technology, companies should encourage safe, ethical hacking by creating environments where this kind of talent can be nurtured. By offering mentorships, internships, or collaborative projects, companies can give young hackers a path to hone their skills and direct their passion in productive ways. If Technova had been more open to engaging with up-and-coming talent, they may have identified vulnerabilities sooner and potentially avoided the crisis altogether. This story also underscores the idea that threats don't always come from the most obvious sources. In this case, the hacker wasn't a sophisticated criminal syndicate or a rival company. It was a single teenager working alone from his bedroom. This should serve as a wake-up call for tech companies everywhere. They must not underestimate the potential threats from unexpected places, whether it's a lone hacker, an insider threat, or even a mistake made by well-meaning employees. The industry must take a broader approach to security, one that includes not only cutting-edge technology, but also a focus on the human side of cybersecurity, training employees to recognize threats, investing in ethical hackers, and building a culture of awareness. By embracing these practices, tech companies can better protect themselves and, perhaps more importantly, be prepared for the next wave of cyber challenges. The tech world is unpredictable, and this story is a perfect example of just how quickly things can change. One moment, a CEO is leading a billion-dollar company, and the next, they're out of a job because of a single, unexpected breach. It's a stark reminder that no company, no matter how successful, is immune to the ever-evolving landscape of cyber threats. Hacking has become more than just an inconvenience. It's a powerful tool that can reshape industries and challenge the status quo. Whether used for good or ill, it's clear that hacking is changing the game for both companies and individuals alike. As we've seen, it's not always the most obvious threats that cause the biggest damage. It can come from unexpected sources, like a 15-year-old hacker with a passion for technology. What do you think? Could this happen again? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you can stay updated on more fascinating stories like this. The events and characters described in this video are not based on real events and are purely a product of creative storytelling. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. The story is meant to entertain and spark conversation about cybersecurity in the tech world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.